was a river that had no bridge. For generations, everyone who crossed it built a mental model of the danger, wading through cold currents, risking slippery stones, losing belongings to swift water. Some turned back. Some never made it across. Some arrived on the other side wet, exhausted, and grateful simply to be alive. The river was not cruel. It was simply indifferent. And indifference, over time, becomes its own kind of obstacle. It was a cognitive barrier, a problem solved individually, thousands of times, but never solved collectively. Then came an old man who lived on one side of that river. He had crossed it thousands of times in his life. As a child clutching his mother's hand, as a young man carrying tools to build his first home, as a father holding his children steady against the current, as a widower crossing alone in the dark, the water colder than it had ever been. He knew every stone, every eddy, every hidden drop-off. He had learned to read the river the way others read books. His final crossing was on an ordinary Tuesday. He reached the side where his children no longer lived, where his wife's grave was not, where his work had no need of him. He stood on the familiar shore and felt something he had not expected. Emptiness, not sadness, not relief. Something worse. The silence of a life that had stopped needing to struggle. He had arrived. And arrival, he discovered, is not the same as purpose. Days passed, then weeks. He sat on his porch and watched the river flow. The current still ran. The stones still shifted. The water still caught the light the way it always had. But he no longer had a reason to enter it. His body was tired. His joints ached. His children called when they could. His friends had mostly crossed for the last time themselves. He was not unhappy. He was simply finished. And that was the problem. Finished is a dangerous place for a human being to live. Who am I if I no longer cross the river? What is my purpose if the struggle is over? Why get up in the morning if there is no current to face? He did not decide to build a bridge. That would suggest a moment of clarity, a flash of inspiration. Instead, one morning, he picked up a stone and carried it to the riverbank. He set it down. He picked up another. He did not know why. A passerby asked what he was doing. He had no answer, so he gave the only answer that would come. Building. Weeks became months. The stone grew into a foundation. The foundation grew into a path. The path grew into a crossing. He worked through rain and sun, through aches and doubts, through the quiet mornings when the river seemed to mock his effort. He worked because working kept the silence at bay. He worked because the river had always asked something of him, and now he was asking something of himself. He worked because he had not yet finished the business of being alive. The bridge was finished on an autumn afternoon, not because he worked fast, but because he never stopped. He stood at its center, leaning on a walking stick, watching the water pass beneath. A young woman approached from the far side. She hesitated at the bridge's entrance, then stepped onto the wood. She crossed carefully. Looking down at the river, she would have had to wade. When she reached him, she stopped. "Did you build this?" He nodded. "But you live on this side. Why would you build a bridge you don't need?" He looked at her face. Young, tired, carrying a bag that seemed too heavy. He thought of all the times he had crossed with his own heavy bags. And for the first time, he understood why he had built it. Because I needed to build something that would outlast my need. When he died, the bridge remained. Children crossed it on their way to school, laughing instead of shivering. Young lovers held hands across it, their shoes dry. Merchants carried goods to market without losing a single sack to the current. The old crossed it with canes and steady steps, grateful for the flat, solid wood beneath their feet. None of them knew his name. None of them needed to. The bridge was his name. His face was carved into every plank. His voice echoed in every footfall. He had crossed the river thousands of times, but his most important crossing was the one he never made, the one he made possible for everyone else. Moral of the story. Here is what the old man's brain understood, and the truth this story reveals about you. You are crossing your own river. Every day, every choice, every small victory and quiet struggle. And one day, you will reach the other side. Your work will be done. Your immediate needs will be met. You will look back at the current you navigated and feel the weight of all those crossings. The day will come when the river you have spent your life crossing no longer asks anything of you. Your career will peak. Your children will leave. Your ambitions will be fulfilled or set aside. And in that silence, you will face the most dangerous question a human being can face. Now what? When you feel empty, lost, or directionless, your brain is signaling a purpose deficit. Do not mistake this for depression, though it can become that. It is a call to action. The old man's brain did something remarkable. Faced with the void of completed crossing, it reactivated the only schema it knew: problem solving. The river was still there. The problem, dangerous crossing, was still unsolved for others. His brain seized on this mismatch and generated the only solution that made sense: fix it. Building the bridge was not altruism. It was cognitive self-preservation. He did not know this. He only knew that picking up the first stone felt like waking from a long sleep. His hands remembered how to work. His mind remembered how to plan. His days regained the structure that had kept him alive for 90 years. The bridge was his cognitive prosthesis, a replacement for the purpose he had lost. So, here is your question for today. What problem in your world are you uniquely positioned to solve? The old man scanned his environment and found the river. Your river may be smaller. It may be larger. But it is there. True success is not measured by how well you cross the river. It is measured by how much easier you make the crossing for those who come after you. What problem are you avoiding? Not because you can't solve it, but because solving it would mean admitting you still have purpose. The old man could have said, "I've crossed enough. Let others cross their own river." He did not say that. He picked up a stone. What is your stone?